All right, race fans, let's jump right in to Tampa because there's a ton to unpackage, starting with, of course, the top story, Mookie. Now, I believe what I've seen so far reported from right after the race to the press conferences to all the social media content creators, even already generating content around this thing, is the one thing that I saw while I was watching Malcolm Stewart do his thing out there, which was the coolest thing that we've all seen in a long time, because this guy's been at it for a long, long time, and it looked like this was something that was never going to happen, right? We've seen so many riders stuck in this position that never, ever, ever get the premier class win. But what I saw, and everybody at this point, at the time of this recording, has missed, I saw Eli Tomac beast mode reincarnated. This guy, the best description I can come up with what I saw out of Malcolm, is he went beast mode out there. I mean, this dude went full beast mode. He was hunting people down and dispatching the top riders of the sport. And the more impressive thing about him, even more impressive than had it been Eli going beast mode for us once again, we hadn't seen it up until this point. Had we seen Malcolm in some battles and actually be able to overtake a rider of that caliber? Sure, but never like what we saw in Tampa. And clearly, it was awesome to see. And usually we bag on Ricky, but I even was cool with Ricky, probably one of Ricky's best booth moments. He was actually, pumped to be there, pumped to see it. And you could tell the whole booth, I mean, everybody's jaw was hitting the floor because we were watching something go down that nobody saw coming. But the reality is this, where Malcolm had that whole track dialed in, but of course the whoops. The whoops were the one place where he was gaining all his time, and why other riders weren't that clearly tripling into the whoop section was the right line. The other guys were doubling and weren't able to carry the entrance speed that Malcolm was, whether they were scared of those whoops, which were treacherous, which is a whole nother thing. I mean, the riders were not happy with this track. This track was dangerous. I loved this track. I loved the fireworks. I loved everything it produced, but I think when you're just getting these West Coast lights riders out there, the East Coast lights riders out for the first time, kind of like A1, it was kind of a dumbed down track. And I know a lot of times we talk about these tracks are too cookie cutter, which they typically are. But if you're going to make a track cookie cutter, do it at the first round. And this was the first round for the East Coast lights guys. And a bunch of riders got claimed. Pierce Brown, from hero to zero virtually overnight. And it wasn't to say, the whoops were treacherous, so we can't really blame it on that. But the reality is this, that track, RJ Hampshire, again, here comes the tough blocks becoming an issue. The lappers were an issue all night. And of course, another story that was probably going to go under the microscope, a lot of things that we can definitely make into content moving forward because there's so many storylines. But the Kenny incident, and even in the press conference, that was another thing with this press conference, man. They keep asking the same guy, like, oh, this one's for Cooper Webb, this one's for Cooper Webb. And Anderson's sitting like, why am I here? Why am I here? And, they should, when they pass the mic around to they kept passing it to our boy, the Seven Deuce, which was awesome to hear him. I've never heard him in a presser, so it was cool. But they asked that he got to ask most of the questions, which was cool. But at the same time, we need to go, when you pass the mic, it should be an obligation or a directive to, if Cooper Webb was just asked a question, ask one of the other guys a question if you get the mic, because it can't be lopsided. Why have these guys sit up there if they're not even going to get to answer any questions? And I understand people want to talk to the bigger star and this and that and the other, but Cooper Webb had said, he goes, dude, these lappers, this is getting ridiculous. And he's like, I understand they're trying to make a living, But, if they're not moving over, they need to be penalized. Now, this sand section was tricky because even if these guys weren't lappers, they were still on the lead lap. Kenny tried to thread the needle. And these lappers didn't have an opportunity to, even if they were going to, which they probably wouldn't, move over. They were stuck in a rut. I mean, they're pretty limited to how freely you can move over and let the leaders go by. And Kenny was just in full send in the heat of the moment trying to thread the needle. I mean, he had no choice. And so that came up and bit him pretty bad. So the reality is this. I see three huge issues right now. Tough blocks are clearly, I mean, these are paid advertisements. That's their billboards. That's why these tough blocks are still out there. But that's going to probably... that's going to be changing soon because now, I mean, it was a glaring issue in Tampa. Number two was, yes, the lappers now, they're probably going to be, in these pre-race meetings, probably impose more points, penalties, and penalties will be handed down for riders that are deemed to have not, yielded to the leaders coming around quick enough to try to get them to comply. And then three, this track, I don't like dumbed down tracks. I love this track because it provided more fireworks than any other race than we've seen this in the series so far. But this is a race because we were getting the East Coast Lights guys, their basically opener. We probably could have dumbed this one down a little bit. Now the dirt's softer, it's ruddier, it's trickier, but then you throw in these enormous sand sections and some of the other obstacles. It was just a little too much potentially. Now, again, this is gladiator games, blood sports stuff. Like I do not like cookie cutter tracks. The riders don't like them. But I heard so many riders, even RJ Hampshire, I think after his heat race, even say, he's like, this track almost cost me my life, at some point. Like they were not happy with the track. I didn't hear one rider say, I love the track. Now, of course, Malcolm Stewart probably loved the track. Now, he's from the area. He's used to that dirt. He was in a hometown environment, and he had dialed that thing in. But even him, he said, I had to finesse the clutch during the through the sand section. Like I really, it's always like, I hit my marks. Everybody's like, hit my marks. And Malcolm did it best. Now, with that being said, Malcolm, which was awesome because, he had been told by Nathan Ramsey, the team manager for Husky, and even Big James, like, dude, you have what it takes to win. And, Malcolm himself, understandably so, he was frustrated. He was blaming the team. He was blaming the bike. How could you not? I mean, you've now, this brand's in trouble. It would be easy to start pointing fingers. But this is really what was needed for Malcolm. And I had posted this on the Instagram account. If you're new, jump over to Walty Wanders MX on Insta. A star is born. We saw beast mode reincarnated in the form of Mookie. And this was just magnificent to watch because at first, most of us were like, dude, this dude's in podium position. Chase is gone. And I was afraid, and I'm sure a lot of you were, and I'm sure Malcolm was himself. Like, because we saw what happened to Chase. The crowd was so loud, he knew something was happening, and he started racing behind himself, and he hit the deck. And Chase he hits the deck a lot, is what I'm trying to say. And he can do this all by himself, and he did it last night. Now, I was pretty confident. I saw his lever was tweaked. So when I saw him dropping positions the way he did, I figured it was probably more bike than him, but you couldn't be sure because this is something that Chase can do. But he's released that the throttle was jacked, the front brake was jacked. He just tried to bring it in. And that's clearly what he did. And he still got the points lead. But now the points are completely shaken up. And we might be losing Eli Tomac because if he's going to come out next weekend in Detroit, and sometimes a bone bruise or a sprain is going to take longer to heal than a break. So if he can't come out and put in beast mode or Eli Tomac quality racing, he's probably going to opt to just go ahead and sit it out and I wouldn't be surprised. The field is being decimated, and Honda's in massive trouble. I mean, now Hunter Lawrence is out. Like, he was the one guy, like, hey, well, at least we got the other brother. We paid for two brothers, and nope, he's gone. And then Chance Hymas, he's clearly off the pace. He's clearly not running at 100%. RJ Hampshire, he's done. His championships hopes are gone. Frenchie Vial, he got, I think a fifth. So he's still in it. He's in perfect position. He had a worse finish in last season and was able to still win the championship. Levi Kitchen, a horrendous race. Again, the sand section collected him. I think they really needed to, as much as I hate to dumb down tracks, probably this track without the sand would have been a good move. Bring this out a little later. I mean, again, it provided one of the best races. Actually, not one. This was the best race of the year. Let's just be honest. This was the best race of the year. And we know how unpredictable this sport is. The only challenge is that we're now seeing riders go out with, and we always get injuries, but it's now we're just like, it's decimated already. So the whole fabric of the championship now has changed. And it was awesome to see Max Anstey, another veteran, come out. And, I was wondering if he was a one-hit wonder on the Firepower Honda last year in the 250s where he had the red plate for a round or two. The fact that this dude came out and looked as good as he was consistent, he through qualifying, heat racing, and the main, and even a red flag restart. Like, this dude is rock solid, and that's where maturity can still be your biggest asset. And it's hard not to cheer for Malcolm and Max, because these dudes are basically almost twice the age of some of the dudes that they're racing against, and they weren't even in the conversation. Max maybe a little bit was in the conversation about being a potential title threat, but he probably wasn't. Like, money was going on RJ and Frenchie and Kitchen and probably a couple other riders before even Max. So I'm a huge Max fan. I'm cheering for him, of course, because who doesn't want to see the veteran go out there and give it a go? And it's pretty rad to see the sport now. More wins and finishes and front runners out of veteran riders than these young guns. And like the Lawrence brothers now, they're both out. And we all know it's not if you're going to get hurt, it's when and how bad. So I'm a little worried about the Wonder Boy, because we've talked about this before. He was ushered in as the face of the industry. He was the chosen one. They'd thrown all the marketing at him. They had allowed him special treatment in the form of donut selling and VIP sales and this and that, which things that really didn't have much financial gain. It was more about his entourage and circle. This was a way for he could maybe give them the opportunity to make a little extra money, because his money's coming from sponsors, contracts, endorsements, not donuts, and not VIP fanfare experience. That's just a drop in the bucket. So he probably green-lighted that for his family. Just any revenue stream that you can make, of course, you're going to go for it. But now he's had the big injury. And Hunter's hit his head, so, you can only take so many hits to the head. And like Austin Faulkner, like I really kind of concerned for Austin. I know he, reports were he was sick. And, but I think even a healthy Austin, I mean, what he's been through at this point, you're not going to be willing to hang it out. Now, he, of course, this dude, when you're offered money, I mean, money is going to put a lot of people on the track where they normally might retire, but I don't know if he's got an exit strategy. I'm sure he's been able to stack some of that cash and has some ability to potentially retire on what he's made, but I don't know. I don't think he's got walk away from the sport money unless he's invested well into some solid investments that are yielding enough of a return where he can have some kind of retirement, but it won't be any Jet Lawrence style retirement. That's for sure. But, Jet now, this is going to be challenging. I think that picking him to go after McGrath's record now, off the table. Now it's just if he comes back, and if he does, will he be able to shake off the big injury and put that out of his head? And that's the thing. Once you've had the big injury, it looms in the back of your mind, right? And that's why it was rad to see Eli be able to come back from his Achilles. And he only had, his last big injury was back when he rode for the Geico Honda. I think his first year in the 450 class in the outdoors, where he broke both his arms, got tossed off the bike. And to see Eli still out there was pretty awesome, but he had never been kind of the wonder boy, chosen one, moto messiah, and SMX wasn't around. It was still traditional supercross, motocross, off-season, overseas stuff. And now that we've completely changed everything to try to mass market appeal this thing, to see Eli come back and be able to, perform how he performed, was great. But now I'm not even sure if we're going to see Eli back. If he's nursing an injury, he's not going to come back if he can't be 100%. He'll wait. And he's probably going to have to do some form of a farewell tour unless he's okay. Let's hope he's okay. He comes back. He can race himself back into shape. He can still be up front, at least hitting podiums, and then slowly get back to beast mode form. But there's a good chance we might not. And even if we see him in the playoffs or the outdoors, will this latest injury, have a lingering effect and handicap his ability to perform? There's a really good chance it could. There's just a lot of storylines going all through Tampa. Tampa was awesome. The funnest race I've watched all year. This thing was great. And I know you guys dug it too. I said somebody on Instagram, they're like, dude, these lappers, like, he was pissed. He's like, dude, Kenny's career was it just cost him the championship. I mean, not to say that Kenny was on, a championship hope, but he had a red plate. He was in the hunt. He was looking great. So, you definitely have to at least acknowledge that, there was a chance. It might have not have been, your first pick, but there was a chance. And so, the points are shaken up again. It looks like what we're looking for, what we're going to be seeing now, is the Cooper Webb Chase Sexton championship. Chase is going to have to deal with Cooper Webb, and Cooper Webb, my pick right now, because he's consistent. We're getting into the tracks he likes. Now, the one thing, like Big James is saying, and I was a little like, oh, don't say that, Big James. Like, I understand, but it almost reminded me of, like, I don't know, well, who was that? Like Michael Jackson's dad, who kind of got a little bit, like, I don't know, just in the limelight and talking some big game and this and that. And it was like, this is it. We're get ready for more. Isn't it? Like Malcolm's going to go on some massive run. And Malcolm was like, dude, I'm in the record books. And I love that about Malcolm. He was really humble about this. He's like, no matter what happens, I'm in the record books. But he's like, I want more. And I'm sure everybody in his circle now is like, dude, you've got what it takes. You've had it the whole time. You proved it in Tampa. You believe in yourself. Go out every night now and believe that you can win. But in this sport, is even as these guys are, it's all about the start. But we can see if the track plays into, like, Malcolm's favor. I really want to see Malcolm all of a sudden emerge and maybe even go on a winning streak. If I was a betting man, though, I'm not sure. I think we just had the perfect scenario for Malcolm in Tampa, in Florida, hometown race, used to the dirt. He got a start. He figured out the whoop section. In fact, James kept reiterating from the booth, like, I talked to James before the race and I told him this about this line. And that was the line for sure. You just carried so much more entry speed into those whoops by tripling. And it was kind of fascinating that other dudes weren't picking up on that. But even that aside, Malcolm was closing or not letting anybody get away from him anywhere else on the track. But then in the whoops, that was his just secret spot where he was able to shine. But that was a dicey track. I was worried like he was going to suffer from the nerves and have a tip over. Like, I was like, don't start waving to the crowd. Like, I wanted him to, like, wave to the crowd off the triple because the crowd would have went crazy. But I'm like, don't do that because, you could, like, I think Nate Ramsey back in the day, in the 125s, started waving to the crowd early and ate it. I could be wrong, but that does happen. And yeah, it was just crazy. I was like, just hang on, dude. At first I'm like, just hang on for the podium, dude. Don't even chase down Chase. Just let him go, dude. Bring it in for a second. That's huge payday. A lot of momentum. It'd be huge. But, the crowd, like he said, he's like, it was almost like the crowd was twisting the throttle for me. In final thoughts, I come to you as a friend, as a content creator, as a moto guy that wants to see you not only win on the track, off the track. Understand the waters you're swimming in now. They're shark infested. Malcolm, welcome to the swimming pool. Pumped, bro. Pumped that you are in the pool and you dispatched of everybody in beast mode quality. You are, in fact, the new beast mode. A star is born. Let's see you take this momentum and just run with it and be a guy that and close up, maybe even get into this points up. Maybe you can even bring home a championship. Anything's possible, and that's why Walty will be here to blow the lid off it every step of the way. Because it's not only what we need, it's in fact what we deserve.